Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Um, Today's speaker is Milos Vukadinovic. He is a PhD candidate in bioengineering at UCLA, advised by Dr. David Oyang, and also a visiting graduate student at Cedars-Sinai and also a data scientist at Kaiser. And so he specializes in ML for cardiac medical imaging, and his talk today is Vision Language Foundation Models for Cardiac Imaging.
Thank you, Danielle. So yes, I'm going to talk about vision language foundation models for cardiac imaging, and that's the work that we did in these previously published papers. First, vision language foundation model for echocardiogram interpretation, published in Nature Medicine, and recently published preprint EchoPrime. And please feel free to stop and ask questions at any point. Happy to answer, and also happy to answer questions at the end of the presentation. So anytime is really good. So just briefly about echocardiography. Echocardiography is an ultrasound procedure that uses sound waves to visualize heart and nearby blood vessels, and is the most widely used imaging modality. And a standard echocardiography exam looks like this. So first, a sonographer obtains different videos of the heart, slicing it from different angles to visualize various anatomical structures. Then all those videos, so there are many videos for a single exam, this set of videos is sent to a cardiologist who inspects them, evaluates them, and writes the full, long interpretation report. And machine learning has been used, or AI has been used to automate various parts of this pipeline. So, for example, previous works of AI in echocardiography include regression models such as ejection fraction prediction from echocardiograms, or segmentation models where we try to segment out certain tissues, in this example, LV mass. There have been many classification models where we just try to classify disease, no disease from the image. And recently, people started working on also generation models, such as creating synthetic images from scratch for the purposes of data set collection and pre-surgical planning. However, we think that all these current models are limited, mostly because they just use a limited amount of information. So if we look at the whole study that was obtained during one echocardiography exam, most current models just focus on a single video and then just a single frame from this video. And that's the input to the AI model, which then makes a prediction, which is also isolated prediction. So it's a single task. In this example I gave, such as mitral regurgitation prediction, but it's limited input and limited output, which is we think not how standard clinical care is being done. So what we want to do, we want to make an AI that works like a cardiologist. And what I mean by that is that we want an AI to be able to synthesize the information across all the videos captured in a single echocardiography exam, and then generate a full comprehensive report describing each anatomical section that's actually present in these videos. Yeah, so this is like the high level overview of what we achieved with project EchoPrime. So I'm going to go into more details of how we developed this model, what were the challenges and what were the outcomes. So first, the first part of every machine learning pipeline is really collecting the data set. And we are lucky to be at Cedars-Sinai, which gave us where we had access to a large amount of echocardiography data. So our training data set consisted of 108,000 patients, 12 million videos, 275,000 studies, and about 68 million report words across all these reports. And while we had access to this data, it's not only having the access. It's also really preparing the data, pre-processing it, and making it ready to be fed into a machine learning model, which is something that my PI, Dr. David Young, has been working for a couple of years now. And this is why we are able to have this data set, which, to the best of my knowledge, is the largest echocardiography data set that a machine learning model was trained on. If we just look at some of the specifics of the data, so reports are usually 200 to 300 words long, and each video has about 50 to 200 frames. This figure on the right, it just shows all the different anatomical sections that a single echocardiography report describes. And we also collected many external data sets because it's important to know whether your model that you trained actually generalizes. So first, we have access to Stanford Healthcare, which includes 1,800 patients, 1,800 studies, and about 90,000 videos. Then we used Mimic dataset, which is a publicly available dataset from Beth Israeli Medical Center. And from there, we were able to process 2,400 studies. And we also have the international validation site from Taiwan at CGMH Hospital, which had 1,200 studies. Now that I described the dataset, I'm going to talk about the model design. So how do we actually efficiently use this data and teach the model? First, so EchoPrime consists of a video encoder, text encoder, view classifier, and anatomical attention module. So first, video encoder and text encoder are trained contrastively to match the corresponding video report pairs. After they're trained, a video encoder takes a video and maps it to a corresponding vector representation, and similarly, a text encoder takes a text report and maps it to its corresponding vector representation, such that vector representations of videos and reports that belong to the same study are going to be close to each other in the latent space. So that means that after the training is finished, we're going to have a well-structured latent space that looks like the figure here with the caption multimodal embedding. Next, we separately train a view classifier to predict one of the 60 standard echocardiography views. And the figure here shows UMAP embedding, so just that view classifier is able to efficiently distinguish between it's actually 60 different views, but this figure just shows bucketed to kind of like a parent view, so for the better visualization. And finally, we have the anatomical attention module, which learns how to weight different views when certain anatomical sections are being analyzed. And this is it's essentially a weighting matrix. So because not all the when we analyze a certain anatomical section, this structure is not present in all the echocardiography views. Some views are going to be more informative, and some are going to be less informative. So by telling the model how to weight these inputs, we're going to give it additional knowledge. Now, during the inference, we take all the videos from a single study and feed it to EchoPrime. The view classifier first assigns a view to each of those videos. Then a contrastive encoder maps each video to its corresponding text vector representation. And finally, the anatomical attention module weights the inputs and retrieves the text report section by section. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom in slightly about some technical details of the training for a more technical audience, but happy to answer any questions about specific details. I'm also not going to go too much in depth, just motivate some of the architectural choices that we used here. So first, our input is 224 times 224 video, 16 frames long. For the video encoder, we use the multi-scale vision transformer, and the latent space is 512 dimensional. For the text encoder, we use Biomed BERT so that we can have a long context size of 512 tokens, which is 512 tokens actually fits all of the reports that we have that I described previously, 300 words long. As for the view classifier, we use the connext-based architecture that classifies into 58 common echocardiography views. And for the anatomical attention module, we used multiple instance learning with the architecture shown in the bottom right that learns how to optimally perform average pooling to maximize for the certain task accuracy. We trained this on two NVIDIA RTX A6000 GPUs with a batch size of 32, and training with all the stopping points and checkpointing took around 1 month.
Sorry, quick question. So that embedding for the videos, that's regardless of views, right? You don't have a separate one for each view type, or do you?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So for the video encoder itself, it's not conditioned on the view. So each video is going to be embedded. Say that we have like a 50 different 50 different videos for one study, and each of them is going to be mapped to a vector representation with a video encoder. But then separately, we're going to have a view classifier that tells us what is the view, and that, like the merging of these video embeddings and the views happens later on in the pipeline, if that makes sense.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so moving on to the results. First, we confirmed our hypothesis there that more data plus strategic focus is equal to better performance. So as we increased the amount of data that we gave to the model uh, as we increased the amount of data that we gave to the model, the accuracy improved. So specifically here we show on two tasks, aortic regurgitation prediction and LV ejection fraction. The accuracy improved as we went from one image to one video to a full study, and finally a full study with EchoPrime weighting. And this reflects so what I talked about earlier, that previous models have only limited amount of information as input. So the more context that we give to the model, this results show that it's improves the accuracy. Another main result is really comparison on all different medical centers. And EchoPrime is a foundation model, meaning that it can use just a single set of weights to predict various different prediction tasks. So really all the tasks that are present in the echocardiography report. Here we selected about 20 different tasks and inspected the accuracy and compared it to previous foundation models. So we compared it to previously developed EchoClip model, which is also from our lab, but it's image-based, and we compared it to a more general Biomed Clip model, which is a foundation model for biomedical imaging. And across all four different institutions, so Cedars-Sinai, Stanford Healthcare, Mimic, and CGMH Hospital, EchoPrime outperformed the previous foundation models. I think the largest gap here is in the models that require temporal information. So the largest gap is in the tasks that require temporal information, such as ejection fraction, aortic stenosis, since really echocardiography and heart motion requires dynamics, not only the static image. And we can see that the model performance is robust across different institutions. And in our paper, we really show against, so we also compare what happens when you try to evaluate it on low quality images, on on studies that have very few videos, and the performance shows to be robust. But we also compare model EchoPrime with task-specific models. So in contrast to a foundation model that can predict various different tasks with a single set of weights, task-specific models are trained for only a single task prediction. So similarly to what I showed previously for, let's say, mitral regurgitation prediction. And surprisingly, EchoPrime outperforms or matches. So without any additional fine-tuning, EchoPrime outperforms or matches the existing task-specific models. Here, in the literature review that we did, we found six different task-specific models for echocardiography, and on all of them, EchoPrime performs competitively. But it's important to mention that EchoPrime can handle more than 100 tasks, so all the tasks that are basically present in the echocardiography report, and we don't need any additional fine-tuning for that. For example, here I show that we could predict even non-echocardiography specific diseases such as STEMI and amyloidosis, where with just like a few samples, we were able to achieve high accuracy AURC of 0.92 and 0.96. Then we also looked at the interpretability. So we asked three different cardiologists to highlight what views do they focus on when they evaluate different anatomical sections. And that's what the matrix on the left shows. Then we also extracted the same thing from EchoPrime. So what views does it focus on when in the anatomical attention module, when it evaluates different sections? And you can see that the matrix are similar, particularly for the left ventricle section, the apical views seem the most important in both matrices. And then say for the aorta section, the SSN views was deemed very important by both cardiologists and EchoPrime. There are some differences, such as SSN view was actually, supraparasternal notch view was deemed important across different anatomical sections in EchoPrime focus, whereas cardiologists found it important only for the interpretation of aorta. But largely the focus is similar in what we expected to see. Mostly it's because these structures are present, visible in these views, and obviously if the structure is not visible in certain view, it's you can say limited things about it. Okay, so I want to have a couple of slides talking about how you can use EchoPrime yourself. So previously, if you want to train a foundation model for echocardiography, or if you want to train a state-of-the-art model for echocardiography, you would really need millions of data points and lots of compute power if you want to compete with state-of-the-art models, obviously. And one experiment that we did previously in our lab was how does the performance improve as we scale the number of training samples. And here we show that I mean, kind of as expected, but then there is no really limit. So as we increase the number of data samples, the mean absolute error decreases. So more is better, and so that's always one easy way to improve your model, just collect more data. But obviously not everyone has access to millions of data samples. So I'm trying to say here that we can actually use few samples and use EchoPrime to train state-of-the-art models. So for example, you can use, EchoPrime weights are available for free on GitHub, and just with Google Colab and a few data points, you can fine tune for your own specific task. So you can either do something like, so if it's present, if the task is present in the echocardiography report, you can just use the zero shot and evaluate EchoPrime on it. But if it's not present, say like amyloidosis or STEMI, which are non-echocardiography specific, but can still be diagnosed from echocardiograms, you can just attach one linear layer or fine tune it for the specific task that you're interested in. And really the only thing that you need to train here is 512 parameters. So you don't need a lot of compute power. And here we have two experiments that showed that even with, so for STEMI, I think and for amyloidosis, we had a couple of hundred examples. So with just like a couple of hundred of examples, we have the 0.92 and 0.96 AURC, which I think is um, very competitive, if not even better than the previous model that addressed this in the literature. Not directly comparable because these tasks are usually diagnosed from ECG and then need another subsequent test for amyloidosis. But these are, I think, a proof that with just like a single layer and hundreds of examples, a couple of hundred of examples, you can create like state-of-the-art model now with the open source EchoPrime weights. So I'm going to talk about some of the future directions, and then I'm gonna introduce demos that we so EchoPrime demo and then another model demo. So future directions for EchoPrime, we we conducted some internal A/B testing, which showed promising results because cardiologists in our lab struggled to distinguish between real and AI generated reports. And given that, our next steps are to conduct a randomized control trial where 50% of the sonographer written reports will be replaced with AI generated reports. And then we will analyze which subgroup undergoes more edits or changes by cardiologists. We are optimistic about EchoPrime because we think it can significantly reduce the time physicians spend writing reports and really minimize the physician-to-physician variability. As for the future research directions, EchoPrime is the first model that can synthesize information across all ultrasound scans, but we believe that there's opportunity in also including and synthesizing information from other modalities and medical records, such as EHR data for cardiology, angiograms, ECGs, CT scans. So all of that, if it's available, that's something that a cardiologist would look at. So it would be useful to give model that as input tool, not limited to certain things. We showed previously that limiting to just like a single image is harmful to the model, right? And right, we released the code, weights, and a demo on GitHub, and we hope that EchoPrime can be a valuable resource to both medical and AI communities. Okay, now I want to show the demo. I'll just briefly stop sharing the screen and move to the video. I have this running live also, but I thought probably I shouldn't be on the VPN while I present. So, um, right. So here on the left, you can see all the inputs that we gave to EchoPrime and thumbnails of the videos. Now, each thumbnail, so we highlight the thumbnails based on what is the current focus of EchoPrime. So in the blue highlight. And then also the highlighted thumbnails are shown in the middle as full videos for inspection. Now, in the rightmost window, we can see the report that EchoPrime generates. It does it section by section. And for example, here, say like it's focusing currently on tricuspid valve anatomical section, and the videos that you see in the middle would correspond to what videos EchoPrime focuses on when evaluating tricuspid valve section. So you can see that it's actually like a full length report. It contains many different tasks, such as ejection fraction, predicts hypertrophy, even the measurements themselves. So centimeter measurements, right? And we think that after performing a clinical trial and understanding what is the best way for cardiologist AI interaction, that this can be really revolutionary for echocardiography. Now, since I have a little bit of time left, I actually wanted to say, so since we have a model that performs good on the task that we evaluated it on, the next big task is how to understand the human AI interaction and to understand what is the most optimal way to deploy it in the medical centers. And we so while inspecting the clinical workflows, we understand that sonographers first write the initial interpretation reports, and then these interpretation reports go to cardiologists for final assessment in most medical centers. But in addition to in addition to the report, sonographers often annotate different structures in these echocardiography videos. So this is why we also worked on a model called EchoNet measurements, and I'm going to show you briefly a demo of that. So this is the latest thing that we were working on in the lab, and we think that when it's complemented with EchoPrime, it's going to uh, provide with like superior initial interpretations, right? So for EchoNet measurements, we are actually measuring various different structures across all different videos of a single echocardiography exam, and we can do that throughout time. So yeah, for the clinical trial that so for the randomized trial that we plan to perform, we will join the outputs of EchoNet measurements and EchoNet Prime, and then think about the optimal way to deploy it and make it easy for cardiologists to do their job and really reduce the time they need to write the interpretation report. So yeah, I think that's all I had for today. I can take questions if there are any, and yeah, hope I was able to demonstrate some of the work we did in EchoPrime and EchoNet measurements.
Great. That was fantastic. Any questions from the group? I can kick us off with like a bit of a technical question, I suppose. But can you talk a little bit more about the decoder that you have, like how you get from your representation to like, did you train it for specific tasks or did you train a text decoder? Like, can you just give some examples of how the model is generating these reports, like section by section?
Yes, let me see if there is a best image that I can do to. Yeah, so I'll just show the latent space figure here. So what we actually in our analysis in our lab we also tried some LLMs for report generation, but we were actually not very happy with all the hallucinations that's happening in LLMs and didn't trust just the autoregressive generation. So what we employed here is similar to retrieval augmented generation, RAG. We call it in the paper retrieval augmented interpretation. But what we do, so we take, say now for demonstration purposes that we have one video, right? So we would have one video, we embed it in the latent space, and this is say a dot, a circle here. Once we do that, so the embedding is going to be view dependent, really. So we joined it's going to be view dependent. So for each section, we're going to have a different embedding of each video. And say that red dot corresponds to the certain embedding, we're going to do the retrieval. So we're going to find the closest report. And then because this is a view dependent embedding, we're only going to take out a certain section. So we're going to cut out the section of the report that is anatomical structure is visible in the uh, view, if that makes sense. So it's really a little bit modified retrieval as presented in EchoClip, such that we also allow retrieval to understand what views the model is in, and just when it does the retrieval, it only does the retrieval for a certain section, it only picks out the relevant views. But it is motivated by the original clip retrieval as presented by OpenAI.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes sense. Great. Other questions?
I have a question. Thanks, Milos. It was really amazing work. I wanted to ask, also related to that, about the different views, the weight for the different views and the relationship to different parts of the report. Are they like trained in the attention module, or is it based on like prior knowledge to give the different weights that you give for each view?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I didn't go very much in depth so that we can understand the high level picture, but we can do both. So what we did, we used the trained ones. We didn't. We could do both because we asked cardiologists to manually also assign the weights. But what we did, so for each anatomical section, we picked out a representative task, and then we trained this kind of simple one-layer regression or classification model to do multiple instance learning, which is essentially learns how to do the averaging, so weighted averaging, to optimize for the best prediction of this task. So, for example, for left ventricle section, we picked out ejection fraction as a task, and then we trained this architecture. Once it's trained, we assume that this MIL module just it takes as input a video and a view and assigns it the weight. So from there, we actually extracted these kind of matrix inputs, right? We extracted the weights from the MIL module. So it's during the EchoPrime inference itself, this is static, so the matrix just exists as it's not variable, right? But this is how we use to kind of like learn to extract the knowledge of what EchoPrime deems the most important. And the reason that we did that was because I mean, there was no, in the whole training process, we never really specified, like, okay, so cardiologists have certain views that they focus on, but say a left ventricle is visible in apical 4-chamber view, is visible in apical 2-chamber view, it's like visible in plaques view too. They traditionally, human eye is most conditioned on certain views, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that EchoPrime doesn't find some other views more important, right? Maybe some of the features that maybe human eye cannot pick up, or simply is not used to because of traditionally picking up. So this is why we want to extract what it itself deems the most important. And as a result, for example, this SSN view where actually aorta is visible, say that cardiologists were not very, they only found it important for the aorta, but EchoPrime found it important for different kind of sections.
Thank you. And I also have a follow-up question about the reports. So after you do that, in general, are the reports structured from beforehand? So would you have like LVF in all reports, and you just fill in those gaps using the retrieval method, or are you just like taking segments from entire segments from existing report, retrieving segments?
Yeah, that makes sense. So we do take the reports themselves, so they are not just reported as metrics. So this is how they appear in our system, as you can see here. However, we found out that they are not really free text reports. So how these reports are written is that a cardiologist has some UI that they populate. So say there's like a multiple choice option, and then once they select, so for aorta, if we focus on aorta, say they have like a multiple choice option. Is aorta normal? dilated, mildly dilated, severely. So they actually select the options, and then this kind of report is populated by the UI. That being said, so there are a limited amount of phrases that appear in this report, and this is what we actually used for the de-identification purposes. So we found maybe thousand something different phrases, and then everything that's not one of those thousand phrases we actually excluded, just to make sure that um, all the reports are de-identified. And actually, so these kind of like yeah, for the purposes of like when we released the code, we also had to, because we are doing this retrieval augmented interpretation, we had to release the reports. But for the release reports, we actually did synthetic generation of these using these phrases. We just randomly combined them to generate kind of like synthetic reports. So on the GitHub, you can find these synthetic reports too, and that's how the model works. Like if people try to run it, right? And
Thank you very
yeah,
much.
just to connect on that, I think some of the current works that I'm seeing often use LLMs to structure the reports, which I think is okay for training data set, but is I think a red flag for using it if you have a test data set of structured reports structured by LLM, because even though I mean, people, use GPT and different kinds of Claude models daily. They still can hallucinate on important things, and I think it's not very reliable to just feed it in the metrics or measurements and then ask it make a structured reports from these measurements.
Great. Any other questions from the group? No? Okay, great. Thank you so much. That was a fantastic talk. I really enjoyed it. So everybody, our next talk will be on May 7th. It'll be given by Dr. Colin Stoltz from MIT. And so we hope to see you there. Thank you very much.